This is We Are the Promised Land. I'm Free for All. Welcome. Do you know how a record is made? Here's the very basic physics of it. So sound is a wave, right? It's a vibration which resonates tiny bones in your ear and sends signals to your brain. That same vibration that translates to your ear as sound has the power to imprint itself on matter, to make a dent in a material, which produces a duplicate of the sound when that groove is activated through friction, like, say, by the needle on a record player. Guitars, drums, full orchestras, individual human voices, all preserved, pitched perfectly in wax or vinyl or what have you. The person who produced the voice will die. The room will be no more. But the sound and its resonance can be reproduced by activating this groove, as long as there is a record of it. We make grooves like this as we go about our lives in location, carving paths by habit and with purpose. We till the field. We graze the cows. We water the horses. We burn the weeds. We plant the garden. We plant the cotton. We harvest the field peas. We save some seed. We pile the cotton in a room in the house. We drive to town or take a horse. We mow the grass. We coax water into ditches, into ponds. We chop trees. We build homes. We make dinner for the children in a whirl in the kitchen. We call out in the hallway, carving the sounds of laughter into the drywall. The floorboards record the shuffle and lilt of our steps. The first time I met Annette Hollowell, she was a silhouette presiding over a corner at a party. Big brim hat, belted tunic. Her face was obscured by the shadows of the city at night. Still, you could see she had style and swagger. BDE, big dreamer energy. A few months later, we were reintroduced by a mutual friend and felt an immediate kinship. Annette is charm incarnate, with a bubbly warmth that is contagious. She has this way of making people feel like they're being let in on something special, even when all she's offering is a glass of water. Back when we first started talking, in the spring of 2018, Annette's family was closing in on the milestone of the century. Literally. In a year, they'd celebrate 100 years since her grandfather, Albert Hollowell, signed the deed on the family land in Waterford, Mississippi. She wanted to do something meaningful to commemorate that. I was interested in exploring inheritance in Black families. Somehow, even though we were new to each other, it just made sense that we would do this together.
Well, you want to say your name?
Yes, my name is Annette Hollowell.
We sat down for our first interview a few days later. I was still figuring out my recording device. Please excuse the handling noise. And getting a handle on the details of Annette's life and family history.
Mm-hmm.
See what I did there?
Where were you born?
I was born in Monterey, California.
Oh, really?
Mm-hmm. Valley girl.
Yeah. I was born in Oakland.
Nice.
Yeah. So then, so you were born in Monterey,
mm-hmm.
and then what?
I can never quite remember the order. So my dad was in the military, so I was born in Monterey. We lived in Fort Ord, California for a while, Fort Irwin. And then we lived in Fort Leavenworth, Kansas, Colorado Springs, Colorado, Fort Benning, Georgia, in Illesheim in southern Germany in Bavaria, in Dhahran, Saudi Arabia, and Riyadh, Saudi Arabia. I think that's all of the places. And in Jefferson City, Missouri. And so my parents retired after that, moved back to Waterford, Mississippi, outside of Holly Springs. And I came to New Orleans to go to school at Xavier, which is the longest I lived anywhere. And the longest I lived anywhere was Saudi Arabia until I came to college in New Orleans. It was like, okay, now I've lived here longer than any place else.
How long were you in Saudi Arabia?
Total of 4 years. Yeah. So I didn't live anywhere very long until now. So.
While Annette's parents, Bill and Annie, raised their family wherever the Army sent them, they only ever really had one home, the North Mississippi Hill Country, where they were both born and raised. Both of their families have been in the area for many generations. Though Bill's brothers and sisters all moved to Ohio decades ago, much of Annie's family still lives here. Bill and his siblings inherited some land from their late father, Albert, a parcel which Bill tended in the back of his mind throughout his time in the military.
And so my dad just had this in him. He talks about it. You have to ask him. He talks about having a dream about, like, I think being out on the land and working with his son. By that point, he had daughters. You know, I'm like, I'm the son. I'm always like, I'm the son. I know I'm the son. You know, he had dreams about it, and him and my mom talked about it, and they always talked about, like, when they retired from the Army, that they would move back there and move back home. So that's what they did. But, you know, I remember the summers kind of leading up to us moving back to Mississippi and him retiring, you know, and he would make the long drive and he'd be hauling, you know, he had a pickup truck and a trailer and he's hauling wood and, like, having this cabin built, this, like, small cabin so that we could live in it while the rest of the work is happening out there, and, you know, eventually moving back and, like, living out there for years as all the rest of the infrastructure is built around us. So 2000 is, like, when we moved back to the land and I came to Xavier. And so I would just spend breaks and summers and stuff there for the first couple of years.
And your parents were building.
And they were building. They built the pavilion, what we call the pavilion, which is this 5,000 square foot open air structure that's like a cement floors and, you know, tin roof. And now it has kitchen and bathrooms. We have the Fox Den attached to it, which is like an indoor banquet hall that holds like 150 people and is heated and cooled and all that. Like, you know, but like it started with just this pavilion and, you know, and not a real kitchen, but like, you know, a place to plug in stuff and, you know, some tables to put in front of it and all that kind of stuff. And it's grown to like be, over the years, it's grown to have more of a significant infrastructure.
By the time I arrived at Foxfire Ranch in 2018, Annette's parents, Bill and Annie, had been operating their event space for 10 years. The place already felt pretty built out. There were all the buildings Annette mentioned. The pavilion has a stage and tables for people to sit. There was the house at the top of the hill, a small stable, and 2 cabins for guests down by the pavilion. Up till now, Annette had been helping her folks out as needed, but it was mostly their thing.
And so this year really marks a difference for me this year and last year, and like saying like, okay, actually, no, I want to help shape and craft and figure this out, you know, and tighten this up and broaden the circle of people that come out here and that view this as a home and a resource and like a place that they fuck with, you know. My job is to broaden the circle of people who fuck with us. Come fuck with us. Yeah, check it out one time. Fuck with us. Let's do some radical shit, you know, like bring your ideas and your family and your people, and like for some of you, your celebrity, you know, and like let's do something unique, you know. So if one thing was clear to Annette at this point, it was that there was real intention behind her grandfather's decision to buy the land. He didn't work hard like that. He didn't want us to be under some, you know, some slave driver's hand, you know, or some overseer. He didn't want us to be having to toil away for some white man. And like, he made sure that we had this land so that we could have that independence, you know? And so I try and imagine and think about what his vision was for it. And I'm excited to like start to be, like interrogate that with more intention, you know, and get the stories, and get the stories, because I think that will help clarify that. And then there's also something that I just inherently feel, like I feel him, like yeah, it's right here, it's provided, it's been done, I did this. So come on, what you want to do? Oh, you want to bring white people and black people out there, and you want to bring some artists and do some artsy-fartsy shit? Go on, do that then. Like whatever it is you want to do, what you waiting for? It's there, you know. And so, it's cool, and it's a different experience. You know, I don't think I've done anything or lived anything that has me feel like I've got this ancestor. Like, actually, this is your palette. This is your canvas. You know, I've provided this. Now, all the stuff that's been in your head and that you talk to people about, like, go do this here. You know, and that's like completely different. Yeah. And somehow, like, you know, what I've been learning and the communities I've been a part of and like my education and the tools I've been acquiring and practicing are all to help with that. Yeah. I'm clear about that. That's like no question now. My dad always felt called to come back to that land. He always wanted to come back and retire there, and had this vision around like living there and building out like this kind of recreational space. And even when we were like, what the hell are you doing, Hollowell, you know? Yeah. And now I'm just like, damn, I caught it too, you know? And like, why not? Yeah. It just feels like just what's so, like, this is just what my work is. Like, this is just a part of my work. And that this is something that like will give me the experience and sharpen the knowledge and the systems and the administration of what's needed to like do the other things I want to do. Like, I'd love to have spaces all over the world where people can come and gather and celebrate and connect and heal, you know?
In that conversation, I made a good analogy, clumsily. I said, it seemed like Annette was trying to tune herself to be an antenna, capable of picking up frequencies from the past.
And that's what it feels like, and that there's this wavelength that, you know, started before my grandfather, but like I'm picking most strongly up from that point, you know, so from 100 years ago, I'm picking up from that point, and that like, and I feel called to think about the next 100 years. And so what am I planting now that will yield something in the next 100 years, which is beyond my girls, you know, it's my grandchildren, essentially. And like, you know, I don't know what that looks like. I know my girls are crunk. I know my grandchildren are going to be off the fucking chain. Like, just like I don't think that my grandfather's efforts and my grandmother's efforts have disappeared. Yeah, like I'm headed to the school now. I talked to Miss Charmaine earlier and let her know, and she just said to call back closer to the time. Her name is Selah.
It's afternoon on a Friday in August 2019, the first week of school, and Annette and I bust the kids out early to take a trip.
Okay, thank you.
There's action.
Intruder! Shit! Quick! Launch, little Tracy! Yeah! Boom!
Emotion.
See, I love you. I love you.
Riveting debate.
Mama, lock the windows.
No, just talk to your sister.
Ida,
Ida,
let me let it out! No! Let me let it out!
It's okay, Selah. It's okay. The wind will blow it over to the
I'm
grass.
on the grass side.
Music.
Sisters calling me. I hear the voice of my
Wake up.
And drama.
Ida, why you hating? Why you hating?
Because I want to sing it by myself.
Okay, can Sissy sing and then you sing it by yourself? Because you could sing the grandmother version.
Things get a little wild.
Oh yeah, Selah and Ida are Crunk and Crunker are their nicknames. Like, I mean, I'm very clear that I don't come from some mellow shit.
After an extended period of crunkness, during which time Selah, 6, and Ida, 4, run around quarter-clothed and negotiate for sweets, somewhat successfully, we pile back into the car and inch our way through typical New Orleans midday traffic. We pass the cemetery at the top of Canal with its bone-white mausoleums, the billboards boasting barely legal ladies, gun shows, and Geico, the airport and the airport hotels. We watch the pink and white blur of crepe myrtle blooms give way to fields of water with balding cypress, then vast expanses of grass. We sing the summer's hits. The only reason that we can't use it in the recording is because Disney owns the rights to it, and if we use it, they could tell us that we have to pay them lots of money to use it.
It's part of the...
And we don't have Disney money.
No, we don't have this.
Well, we gotta turn this off then.
By the time we pass the paranormal glow of refinery flares in the deep distance, the girls are sleeping. Not like they're missing anything. They've done this drive dozens of times already. It's ritual by now. They have places they stop, food they consistently refuse. Annette performs her duty as driver as though the route is a groove etched into the road. The Mississippi Flyway stretches from the Gulf of Mexico into central Canada. In the fall and spring, 40% of all North American migrating waterfowl and shorebirds pass this way. That's hundreds of thousands of individual birds representing over 300 species. White pelicans, bald eagles, cormorants, sandhill cranes, ruby-throated hummingbirds, black-capped chickadees, pine siskins, the purple finch. Also insects like butterflies and dragonflies, who take several generations to complete the journey once. In the Great Migration, between about 1910 and 1970-ish, some 6 million Black Americans made their way from the South to cities in other parts of the country. There were trends and patterns to the routes folks took. Lots of people went north from Mississippi to St. Louis, Chicago, and Detroit, a path which mirrors the flyway uncannily. These folks were songbirds too. Along with their families, memories, and foodways, they brought the blues to the world. Well, the blues and gospel music, the sister mothers of American popular music, born of the Black experience in the Deep South. The state of Mississippi officially welcomes visitors at its borders, with signs proclaiming it as the birthplace of American music. An impressive spin on a long history of systemic violence. Kind of tone deaf, right? Annette's people are blues people. They don't call themselves musicians, but the blues is the blood in the arteries of Foxfire Ranch. Has been for over a decade. When Bill and Annie opened up their North Mississippi estate to the community, they started by hosting blues shows on Sunday evenings, like the jooks of their youth. These days, the shows cover the full range of blues taxonomy, but Hill Country Blues has a special home here. Here we're talking about RL Burnside, who is considered to be one of the artists who defined the Hill Country style. His descendants are among several regional dynasties who maintain the musical tradition.
I don't have to understand the exact words that are being articulated in his moan, like there's something about it that is just so soulful and that just speaks to like the memory in my body, See my jumble on, hit out on the line. See my jumble on, hit out on the line.
By some counts, each region of Mississippi has its own style of blues. So if you hear the blues and have a single sound in mind, chances are that sound is Robert Johnson or Son House, Delta blues, 12 to 16 bar forms in which the human voice and a guitar stretch out together like a man and his dog on the porch and commiserate over the immovable. Hill Country Blues is the Delta's rhapsodic cousin, shamanic, in a trance, sometimes a little manic. Based more often on grooves than chord changes, this blues has a little spring in its step. each guitar line a hypnotic, trotting mantra, urging the listener along behind the message in the moan.
Yeah, and I see it like, and I know part of it is because I love it so much, and my family and my mom loves it so much, and we're there and we're dancing, but I see it in my children, you know, and how they come to it on their own accord. They don't have to like everything I like. They don't like everything I like, but like how, you know, they hear a hill country song come on and, you know, how it makes them move. And, you know, I remember we were out there for a concert. Was it maybe Lightning Malcom and somebody else? But Selah was just in the middle of the dance floor by herself, and she was just gone. Yeah. And, you know, and at first I was like, oh, she's being real goofy. She's about to like bust her head and fall over. Let me stop her and get her to come down. And I was like, well, hold up. And I just stopped and watched, and I recorded her for like 4 songs, and she was getting her life. And like, you know, she's like spinning and twirling and like doing all these karate chops and like, you know, like head bashing and like all sorts of shit. I was like, oh, my baby is feeling the spirit. It's feeling the ancestors. And people were like, just like laughing, like, oh my God, because she was just out there for like 15 minutes, just doing her thing. I was like, oh no, she feels it too. That's all. She can't deny it. Like, I can't deny it. She can't deny it. Like our culture and how we experience that together, how we share that, and how we like express that is like deeply spiritual work. And and so like to be able to bring people together to like feel that spirit, like this universal spirit that we're all a part of and that we share, and you know, that's deep and black and, you know, and like, and so like powerful and irresistible, you know. So there's something that I know is strong in us, and I just believe that other people connect into it too. And it's validated for me when I bring people out there, or when people arrive out there on their own accord, and they're like, I've never heard of this place, or I've been hearing of this place, or I'm back and it's so good to be back, and they love it. And people come and play and they're like, it just feels good to play here, and they love it. Or people come and stay and they leave with words for their song or melodies for their song and stuff like that. So like there's something intrinsically magical about the culture and that space and the land and what's gone into it.
As we drive, the marshes dissolve into corridors of white pine. The land spreads like green butter under the sun, with gently rolling hills, fluffy as baby birds. Oaks and maples dutifully guard a sleepy stillness while being slowly consumed by kudzu. There are fields of corn, soybeans, and cotton. Somewhere nearby, there are watermelons growing fat and round in the sun. When we hit Highway 7, Annette opens the sunroof and the windows to let in the smell of hay.
It's time for a Hill Country History Moment. I do not like the enthusiasm. Why not? It's time for a Hill Country History Moment.
Rhondalyn Peairs is a historian and the founder of Historich. She offers Black-centered historical tours of Holly Springs in Oxford, Mississippi, not far from Foxfire.
There are many narratives about Mississippi I think people don't understand. And if they don't understand that context, then what we end up having is an incomplete story, a misunderstood state, and a story that is also inaccurate.
Rhondalyn has been studying Black land ownership in Mississippi for over a decade.
Now, due to the way Black land ownership can be researched and data can be collected, it's very hard to tell you how many Black landowners there were at any given time, how much land they own, because the statistical information is basically on the census or the agricultural census. In the agricultural census, the definition of who a farmer is changes every 5 years when it's done. And it has not been consistent over time. And the only state that kept digests by landowners, like by their race, was Georgia. So we know that Mississippi and the Carolinas are the places that Black people have owned the most land in the United States of America. And we know that the peak of Black land ownership seemed to be around 1910. Also in the state of Mississippi, 1930 was the last census in which Blacks were the majority of the population. Starting in 1940, whites were only by a little bit now. Not like they all of a sudden had 50 million white people running around, but they eclipsed Black population in the 1940 census. So 1930 was the last time we were the majority, but we still had the highest at about 38%. It's not exceptional in a state that's as Black as Mississippi that a large portion would own property and would utilize that property for community building, for community uplift, and to make not just their own families, but wealth more accessible to other members of the Black community.
Before emancipation in 1860, there were 17 rural Black landowners on record in the state of Mississippi. After emancipation, in the period known today as Reconstruction, that number grew astronomically.
In 1870, there were 1,600 rural Black landowners on record. By the turn of the 20th century, that number had increased to over 20,000.
For that brief period, Reconstruction, Blacks ran to be educated, to formalize their marriages, and to vote, and to get land. Those four things very quickly, they ran to do those things. And even though Black men were the only ones that voted, I have it in a book here, there are all these songs and poems from Reconstruction that basically give us evidence that Black women felt that the franchise was communal. And if their husband didn't vote the right way, which was for the Republican Party, the radical Republicans at that time, then you can come back to this house, but your stuff gonna be outside.
According to Rhondalyn, the overlooked history of Black land ownership in Mississippi boils down to misconceptions about enslavement and the Reconstruction period.
Starting with the idea that Black people came out of enslavement with nothing.
So that's untrue on a couple of different levels. One, Black people came out of enslavement with some skills. In fact, many of them came into enslavement with skills. They did not just go get anybody from anywhere to work these plantations. And they would go and pull our ancestors that were familiar with cultivation of the crops that they were growing in the New World for their skilled labor, for their knowledge of particular types of agronomy. So they came with a set of agricultural knowledge, indigenous agricultural knowledge that was useful here. Also, there were different types of enslaved people. Folks get the institution of enslavement kind of twisted. When you ask somebody what was slavery like, they're going to tell you it was this big plantation. It was all out in the field. They're going to tell you gone with the wind is what they're going to tell you, because that's the normal mainstream narrative. But you could have different types of labor. So when people were able to hire themselves out or be hired out by their enslaver, they were often able to do things that would gain them money. Say they had a seamstress that was bar none. Think Elizabeth Keckley, right? She sewed for first ladies of the United States. Any of those skilled tradesmen, craftsmen, cooks, chefs, they were able to make money off their skill, usually even during the time of enslavement. So even though their portion of the money they got may have been smaller because they were enslaved, that's often the way that they were able to purchase their own freedom. They might come out of enslavement with a cow, a horse, chickens, and other things that would help set them up for life. Many of them, due to the government or relationships that they had with different white people, came out of it with land. A lot of these people were able to buy from their former owners pieces of property. So the idea that they came out with nothing and destitute, certainly there were folks who were destitute, but that just simply wasn't everybody. And so they were able to set up homesteads of their own, especially during the time of Reconstruction. And then some of them continued to hold on to that property even into the present day.
By 1950, Mississippi's rural Black land ownership was declining. Some blame the Great Migration, though this is a symptom, not a cause. But if we're talking about Black land in Mississippi, we have to mention the 1999 court case Pigford v. Glickman, which brought national attention to the racist practices of the U.S. Department of Agriculture in Mississippi, headed at that time by Dan Glickman. The plaintiff, Timothy Pigford, alleged that local and state authorities had refused to furnish him and other Black farmers with the loans that could have saved their farms. In some cases, they approved the loan but delayed the payment until it would no longer keep the farm going, driving the farmers further into debt. Pigford was joined by 400 other plaintiffs in the class action suit, and when in the end, the USDA elected to settle, over 20,000 farmers filed for payouts, though only about 13,000 were paid in the end. The suit covered farmers who could provide substantial evidence for their discrimination between 1983 and 1997, a paper trail, essentially, which many understandably did not have. A subsequent suit in 2010, known as Pigford II, the new batch, reached a $1.2 billion settlement for Mississippi Black farmers who'd suffered USDA discrimination since 1997. Though again, many farmers' claims were denied, and even successful claimants did not receive their payments for a few more years. Other suits, filed by the Black Farmers and Agriculturalists Association, and organizations representing Indigenous, Latinx, and women farmers, were dismissed.
And like, I've witnessed what's gone into it for the last 18 years, watching my parents and my aunts and uncles and all of the people in my family and folks who have like worked out there, and like literally like you couldn't walk on the land, 18 years ago. We couldn't drive a vehicle in there. You had to, you know, like walk through brush and all this stuff. We had to burn it first. And then you have to bush hog it and clear it. And then there was like all of the landscaping because it's all these ditches and red clay and it runs. And then you have to fence it. And it's 80 acres and it's my mom and my dad and my uncle fencing it in. And I remember years of like chigger bites and tick bites and barbed wire cuts and all that they had on their bodies and stuff. And I remember what it meant to live there and, living in mud and always having 3 pairs of shoes with you to make it from the house to the car to, and then headed from, get in the car and I'm going to Memphis to bartend for the weekend. I got 3 pairs of shoes. I got my muddy shoes, like all of that. I know what that toil looks like to like building the cabin, building the house, building the pavilion, building more having all these people out there. I know what 18 years looks like. This has been in my family 100 years. What did that I don't know exactly what that toil looked like from my grandmother and my grandfather and my aunts and uncles, and the people that came before. But it's in there and I feel it. And it's full of contradictions and trauma and celebration and libations and all of the shit, a lot of good stuff, but a lot of blood. Yeah. A lot of blood. Yeah. So.
There's a baby at the door.
Yeah.
I think she's already seen us.
These days, Annette has to steal bits of time.
Oh, that's not the right... Selah, that's not how you keep the pootie away.
She's standing at the door. One thing that's changed is I have a little person that is constantly seeking me out now.
Yes.
Let's see. Hi, Poo Poo.
Good people,
I saw your
may we present Crungest. If Annette had a motherly grasp on multitasking before, she's leveled up to some kind of ninja octopus parent, nursing and playing with the littlest of her brood as she navigates meetings on Zoom, phone calls, and appointments.
We're recording about the things that have happened in my life since 2018, 5 years ago. Ruthie, how old are you?
2.
No, you're not. You're not 2 yet. You are going to be 2 May 1st. Yeah. So I think that's probably... There's a lot of things that have happened, but Ruthie is probably among the best of the things that have happened. And she was born May 1st, 2022.
Yeah.
2. You're sweet, baby.
Let's start in 2018.
Okay.
So when we met,
Yeah.
within a month of when we met, there was a big change.
Yeah, I moved out of my family house. My marriage was ending. Our divorce finalized in, I think it was the spring of 2019 when that wrapped up. And now I got dried apricot that you want me to hold. You go ahead and eat it. You got it. Put it back in your mouth. So, I mean, that was a big transition. being on my own again and in my own place and everything, and then figuring out how to, navigate the unpleasantries of divorce, and then, co-parenting, which I think we've done great with the co-parenting. And, the divorce stuff was rough, but we're at a good place. We made it to the other side. Big picture is surround the children with a village of people who love them and care about them. And so we've been true to that. It's a strange thing, divorce. You ate all of it. Would you like some water? Because I don't think people talk enough about like grieving the ends of relationships, It's weird when you no longer like hug somebody that you had children with. And, there's things that I miss, like when the girls are particularly brilliant or particularly funny and, wanting to have that moment of recognition where you look up and you're looking at the other person, you're like, oh my God, did you hear that? That's hilarious or something. So, there's other ways and other folks to bear witness to that. And sometimes there's not, And then I've been thinking about it like, we had a good relationship, a lot of good memories, a lot of cool experiences together. And I feel like in some ways I was relying on Hamilton to like remember these things for me, And so there's ways that it's like, oh yeah, I was expecting this person to bear, who has witnessed me to, continue to be like a record of that. And, you don't have that in the same ways. You can do that still, but it's just different, Sometimes it's sad. Sometimes it's just like, okay, it just is what it is. But, so that's been a big change. Cancer? My mom was diagnosed with HER2 positive cancer. So there's second cancer diagnosis, and that came, I think that was like 2018. And this time she had to go through chemotherapy and radiation. And so all of this is happening as I'm going through my divorce, and she survived that, but it was hard. It was hard. It took a lot out of her. And I think she's still like trying to recover from that in a lot of ways. There's neuropathy in her legs and, issues with her skin or her hair and just different things, and just not feeling great. My dad was diagnosed with Parkinson's disease. And so this would have been, I guess we're going on 3 years now. So 2022 or so, 2021, 2022, was diagnosed with Parkinson's disease. So it's been this process of kind of, like all the doctors and dealing with, all the insurance stuff and all these different medications and different combinations of medications, and watching, him slow down in a lot of ways, but still push through and, keep up with his routines and responsibilities and stuff, but knowing that he's not feeling good and knowing that it's hard. And, knowing that it's hard for my mom, and, dealing with things and like wills and the conversations around what happens with this land and with the house and with their things and what their wishes are and stuff like that, and so just knowing that like I'll be the one to execute those. And, being in those conversations, or having my mom call me every now and then and be like, we need to finish the wills. It's like, okay, you're worried about him and stuff like that, which is understandable. Gosh, there's a lot that's happened these past few years. The pandemic hit, and within a few weeks of seeing the writing on the wall and being in a shutdown New Orleans, I was like, we don't need to stay in this city. We need to get the girls out of here and just go to the country and not act like we ain't got people and a place to go. And Hamilton was in agreement with that, so came here. And the girls and I lived up here for about 18 months. It was great. I think we had a really good pandemic experience comparatively. We were able to, be out in the country and be together, and we were farming and just, being outside and just spending time together, which was good. And we did pick back up with our blues shows, but we really delayed the season and just kind of waited to see what was happening with COVID. And when we did start back, we took it one show at a time. We spread out all the tables. We tried to implement some COVID safety protocols, I think to varying levels of success. But it was really affirming when we did have those first shows and people came and they were in tears, like coming up to the kitchen window and just be like, oh my God, I really miss this. I miss music. I miss people. I miss this place. Thank you for doing this. My heart needed this. And can I have some greens and cornbread and cabbage and fried catfish and all that kind of stuff. So that was really sweet. And just, I think, additional affirmation and confirmation of like the importance of like culture and how we make it through, and the importance of this place and my family's legacy as it relates to like being culture bearers here in the Hill Country, like that it matters to really be a space for folks through what comes. So, this was really a period of a lot of growth here at Foxfire. We were part of this reparations summer campaign that moved resources from white folks with access to wealth who knew that wealth is derived from exploitation of people or the planet, and had some kind of political alignment with the concept of reparations. My friend and co-worker at the time, Aquia, she led these folks through a process, through a lot of spiritual work and political education to get them to a place of being able to recruit folks that were within their networks, that were already kind of politically aligned with this kind of work to contribute directly towards Black land spaces and organizations and networks and stuff. And so out of that, we were able to receive our first real kind of like outside grant investment in the property, which allowed us to build 2 new cabins. And then to renovate our banquet hall. And it was great because we hosted a lot of people during COVID. People would come and just like, I just need to get out of the city, like I just need a place to go. And we were able to do that and have a distance and, sit under the pavilion, over 6 feet away from each other and break bread or have conversations and just kind of combat the loneliness that I think a lot of us were experiencing. So that was cool. 2021, moved back to New Orleans in August because school went back to in-person only and no longer virtual. And I bought a house in Gentilly, not far from where the girl's father lives. So I bought my first house. There's rarely a week that goes by where I'm like, why am I paying money towards a place here? I'd rather just be putting my resource into Foxfire. But, it has its time. It has its time. Yeah, but through it all, the girls have been thriving. They're smart. They're well-adjusted. They're fully themselves. They have their own personalities and styles and likes and dislikes, and they're good people. I feel like we've done a good job at trying to guard against, not do things that are petty and not in their best interest, just because of whatever one of us might be feeling. And so I'm proud of that.
In my humble opinion, I think they're even more well-adjusted since Ruthie's come along. I think they've both the role of big sister for both of them has really kind of helped them come into themselves. Yeah, it's been cool seeing them both settle into role of big sister to Ruthie, who's a sweet baby. Sweet little baby. Work-wise, I've been consulting. I started working with a nonprofit again after, a decade of not working with nonprofits. So, it's just a lot of different experiences. Yeah. A lot of different experiences. And I think all of which bring me back to the place of, what there is for me to do is focus on here, focus on Foxfire. And this legacy, and that whatever it is I want to do will spring from this, even when I get a little scared and I'm like, oh, I got a mortgage to pay and I got bills and I got this and that, it's stay the course. So, I've back to just focusing on Foxfire and a little consulting on the side, but mostly this year and the last half of last year and everything has been, okay, let's focus on this creative work that we're doing together, getting this podcast out to the world, thinking about the kind of gatherings that I want to hold and create for people out here and the kind of collaborations and festivals and things that I want to have here, and just walking in that and trusting that resources will come and the people will come and the support will come. And
it's been cool hosting, like seeing, like when we started this, I was like, oh, I want to host more Black folks and more retreats, and and this is a place for healing and connection and stuff. And so seeing, all of the like healers and Black agrarians and social justice leaders that have been coming through here, through like the wind call retreats and residencies from all over the country, folks that are, doing frontline work and, burning at both ends and needing a place of respite, and knowing that they come here, and being able to see some of them, and some of it not being able to see them, but like my parents being here with them, and then hearing from other folks that know them down the line, like, oh, my friend so-and-so out of Oakland, they stayed there, they love Foxfire, like that's what it's about, and there's just been so many beautiful gatherings that we've been able to hold and host for folks, and people like seeing what we're doing here, seeing my parents, seeing the vision, and like getting it and speaking our names in rooms that we're not in, which has led to more support for us, whether it's people booking a weekend stay or telling people about us, or booking retreats or events here, or even, some grant funding to continue to add housing so that we can hold folks here in the ways that, that you can have a organizational retreat, or, a big family group come out and stuff like that. So it's been I appreciate the question, because first I'm like, I don't think I can talk about all that's happened. I can't remember it. But it's like, no, it's because it's been really abundant. It has not necessarily been easy, but it has been abundant, and I know there's still more ahead, and what's ahead is not necessarily easy, especially getting to this age of, your parents and having different health things, and, navigating what that's like as a child. And then feeling so much responsibility for sustaining this place that they've put so much of their lifeblood and like passion and, dreams and visions into, and knowing that they're doing it for like my children's children, and doing it for future generations, not for they're not doing it for the clout, they're not doing it for the money. They're doing it because they're clear like that this is worth it, that it's worth it to do. And so that's really moving. That's really moving. Like you become like one of my best friends, like we're like thick as thieves. I've been thinking about that like over the last few months. I was like, well, when we're done with this podcast, and you're like, wow. I was like, well, we'll still talk. Yeah. But it just won't be like, we'll be like, okay, we got to get together and do this intensive work, unless we take on some other project together, which I wouldn't be surprised if we're like, okay, let's do this cool gathering or something. We've had a few breaks here or there with like a few months where you had projects going on, and life was lifing and shit, but we've been really steady.
We have.
This has been the longest term relationship I've had besides my marriage in a while. Along that lines too, just like the collaborators, like the folks that like the people supporting the vision around this place and the importance and significance of telling our story, and then the folks that are like helping us like co-create that, and helping us to like to share and capture an experience of this that we hope will resonate with folks, will resonate with Black people, will resonate with rural folks, will resonate with people with agrarian roots and everything. That's just been, it always overwhelms me when people are like, oh my God, I see it, I fuck with it, whatever you need me to do. I'm just like, for real? Like, okay, great, thank you so much. Like, that's just been so affirming. That's been so affirming. It's like, if you ever doubted if you're doing the right thing or if you should be focusing your energy somewhere, don't doubt it.
And now we're here and we're ready to share, so that's pretty cool.
Only took 6 years.
6 years.
6 years. You know how to count to 6? 1. Don't be sad. 2. Oh, you just gonna let us count and you gonna giggle? 3.
Actually, if you're hearing this, it's been at least 7. In this time, I've moved over a dozen times, did this singer-songwriter thing for a second, made music for film and dance, had my first 2 dogs, my first 2 cars. I fell in love, got married. I spent 2 years in Oxford, Mississippi, about 40 minutes from Annette's parents at Foxfire. I did a master's program at the University of Mississippi, KKK, I mean, AKA, Ole Miss.
This is Photoshop.
There are land sharks and black bears loping around, suggesting that Ole Miss changed their mascot, but you still look for the rebels in college football and baseball. You still see a lot of Confederate flags. Still look over your shoulder when passing the frats. I finished in 2024. There are a lot of things I didn't like about living in Mississippi. The driving, the domination of Walmart. But I loved being close to the Hollowells and getting to know them better. At this point, we're family. We are currently sharing a storage unit. Shit, Annette's mom made me catfish when she know I'm coming. We've helped and supported each other over the years in ways I would never have anticipated when we met. And while I'm not a romantic partner or a co-parent to Annette, I'm glad that I've at least been able to help her keep a record of the tides of her life for the last few years.
We were down by the R bar in the quarter, and it was crazy. Mardi Gras Day, I was like, why the fuck am I down here? And the baby was like distraught, and she's wanting a nurse. And so there was these white dudes on a porch with an Ole Miss sweatshirt on, and an Airbnb like right there. And I walked up and said,
Today you heard from Annette Hollowell, her children, Selah, Ida, and Ruthie, and from historian Rhondalyn Peairs. Music today from Mississippi Sounds, Lightning Malcom, RL Burnside, courtesy of the Association for Cultural Equity, and myself. Sound design by Muthi Reed with assistance from Cedric Wilson, who also mixed the episode. Our virtual altar was brought to life by Alleyha Dannett of Ancient Future Fourest, with photography by Jay Williams and Jasmine B. Johnson. Our house historian is Rhondalyn Peairs. We Are the Promised Land is produced by me, Free for All, in collaboration with Annette Hollowell. Special thanks to the Center for the Study of Southern Culture at the University of Mississippi, the Yaknapatapa Arts Council, and the Mississippi Presenters Network, and to the Association for Cultural Equity. We Are the Promised Land is made possible by generous support from the National Performance Network, the Mississippi Center for Cultural Production, Carpetbag Theater, the National Black Food and Justice Alliance, the Center for the Gulf South at Tulane, the Pantaria Foundation, the New Orleans Jazz and Heritage Foundation, Alternate Roots, the Big We Foundation, the Mississippi Humanities Council, and with financial assistance from the National Park Service and the Mississippi Hills Heritage Area Alliance. Thanks so much for tuning in today. If you didn't already know, this audio altar is but one portion of our homage to the Hill Country's Blackland legacies. For photographs, visual art, poetry, and more, please visit our altar online. You can find the link in our show notes.
Oh, the baby wants water. Mama just dumped all her water.
Are you all right? That hurt, huh?
You can calm down, don't you?
Yeah, that's what I thought.
I did whack myself.
You whacked yourself because you were being too proud. Well, use your words.
You funny. Funny, mommy.